All right, we're all the way at the top on the account button. We're going to scroll all the way down to the help button, and then we're going to work our way back up. When I click on help, you're going to see that you've got a bunch of options in there. You guys have our Tier 1 support, which means that you have access to Canvas support, our whole team of support folks, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every day of the year, either by phone and by chat. Those are the two fastest ways. You could also send them an email support ticket. But you can call them or you can chat with them. You see both of those links right in there. And some very nice support person. They're in Salt Lake City, unless you're up in the middle of the night. There's like a couple hours when the shift changes where you're going to end up calling London, which if you're up in the middle of the night and bored and you want to hear, a British accent, you could always call Canvas support. What they're going to be able to help you with is anything you need with Canvas. And we don't want you to hesitate to either call them or chat with them. If you do call, it's never going to go to voicemail. The promise that we make to our Tier 1 customers is that the call will be answered within a minute. It's not really going to take that long unless there's some serious Canvas problem happening. But they will be able to answer your question, whether it's like, I don't know how to manage my file space, to please help me make this module, whatever it is, they can help you. And you can also call them, and you should call them if you think that Canvas is experiencing a problem. So if you think something is broken, if you broke it, which I'm sure you didn't, but if you think you broke it, you can call them. If you delete your course accidentally, you can call them and they can bring it back. If you're embarrassed because you deleted your course and you don't want to say the words, then you can chat them. So you can do the live chat. They'll respond to your chat within 20 seconds. So don't hesitate. That's why they're there. And especially, they're just waiting for you to call them or to chat with them. So you do see a link there that says you can contact Canvas support via email. That is not the quickest way. That's actually filing a ticket. That's going to, if that's not something that's super important, you can do it that way. But it'll take about an hour till someone responds to you. And it'll be then static communication through email. You're going to see that there's more options down there. And I do want you to go ahead and click where it says search the Canvas guides. Canvas, when we were creating it, we tried to be a different product and they wanted this to be a different way for you to get help as well. So what this is how you can find how Canvas functions, how every piece of Canvas functions. There is a guide, a piece of documentation for how everything works. And they are written clearly. They are always up to date. Canvas goes through a 3-week production cycle. So every 3 weeks on a Saturday morning, there's new functionality released into Canvas. Canvas doesn't go down at that time. It just happens behind the scenes. And before that happens, the guides are already ready. So when the new things go into production, so do the new guides. Because of that, I always encourage people not to print the guides out, but to save the links instead. Because the link stays the same, even though the content might change. And the content just changes a little bit. I don't want anybody to be concerned that every 3 weeks Canvas is totally looking different. It's not that at all. But I'll give you an example of when the guides had to change recently. Last summer, the font changed in Canvas, the font that we used to display, and every single guide had to be rewritten and redone because all the screenshots had to change. And so, that was probably the biggest project that they did, but they didn't even want those screenshots to be showing a different font than what you're going to see in Canvas. So you're never going to come here and find something that's out of date. Any of you who will be training other people too, these guides are going to be kind of like your right hand. I'm going to click here on Canvas Guides and show you that there's a guide for every different role too. And students are going to be able to come to this place. There is a whole set of student guides, bless you, that are written from a student perspective as well. But you're probably going to live in this instructor area, so I'm going to click on that. Now here's the full table of contents. There used to be a link where you could download the whole PDF, and I'm glad that that's gone. Because I have a really funny story. I was training at a school in Florida, and there were teachers that said, I'm going to print that out. She's like, I'm glad there's a download button. I'm going to print it. I said, it's about 10,000 pages. And she said, I have a lot of 3-ring binders. And I said, well, you know, the content could change. It's just probably not a good idea. You always have access to this right here. So let me show you what one of these areas looks like. If I was looking for something about announcements and I clicked here, I would be able to see all of these individual links. All of these individual links, Canvas refers to these pieces as docs. So if you're ever talking to someone on Canvas support and they say, I'll send you a link to a doc about that, they mean this individual piece right here. So this is the doc that's how do I add an announcement in a course. All of these docs look very similar. They're going to be very screenshot heavy, not real text heavy. They're going to show you step by step exactly how to do it. And then when you get all the way down to the bottom, bless you, if you still have a question and you're logged into the Canvas community, which this space is, you could even ask a question or put a comment on it. We have a whole team that it's their job to just answer these questions in the community. So if you still don't have the help that you need, or you think that there's an error on any one of these pieces of documentation, you're going to be able to let our team know and they're going to fix it for you. So those of you who are, you know, like the peer helpers here to help, you know that you're kind of like the first line Canvas, and you know that you have somebody who's going to be like, hey, how do I do that in Canvas? And before with D2L, maybe you had to type up a lot of like explanations and emails. You're not going to have to do that anymore. You can come here, grab the link to the documentation, send them the link, know that it's going to be good information, and say, I found this great doc for you. Have you ever visited the Canvas guides? And you can start maybe to teach them that, oh, maybe that's a place that I could go and find that information. Because I didn't have to like dig down in the way I did and do all that clicking. I could have just searched right here for a keyword that I was looking for, like announcements, and I'll get all of my relevant results. So we spend, you know, even though I've been working with Canvas for a long time, I spend a lot of time in here in the guides because I do send links to people, or I need to dig down into a piece of the functionality that I'm not too sure about. Any questions about that? Okay. The guides live in our community, in our Canvas community, so that's the next link you'll see there, Ask the Community of Users. If you go to the guides and then you still have a question, you can search in here. We have a very vibrant, active community of users, people who use Canvas all over the world. They give a lot of advice, and they answer questions, and they're super active, so you can ask a new question if there's something specific that you can't find how to do it, or a problem that you're having. You can ask a question in there, start a new discussion. There are people in here who write blog posts about how they do it. There's a whole group of people in here who write special programs that do things like upload rubrics into Canvas. I will mention this man's name who you might want to follow in the community. His name is James Jones. He teaches at a small university in Indiana, and he wrote a rubric importer that with a CSV file. And there are people like him who create what we call Canvancements. They are free. But so there's all these people who use Canvas and are giving tips for how they make it work. And you'll find them in the community under the Find Answers part.